everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to a very special video. It's very important to me to do this video because July is Disability Pride Month. If you don't know this, I have rheumatoid arthritis, which is a chronic illness which leads me to have a disability to where I walk with a limp. I sometimes use mobility aids if they're available at certain public places, like Disney. Sometimes I need to use a wheelchair, stuff like that. Disability Pride Month has always been really important to me. So my friend Ava at Ava's Romance Books asked me if I wanted to join and do a rec video for disability books, like disability pride books. And I said absolutely. And Victoria from Victoria's Romance Reads also is doing this collab as well. So I'll have both of their channels linked in the description box below for you to go check out some more recommendations. So basically I just wanted to give you some information on disability pride in the United States, like exactly what it is, what Disability Pride Month is. So basically it's just to celebrate when the ADA, which is the Americans with Disability Act, was passed. And this was back in like July 1990. If you don't know this, 15% of the whole world has a disability. And this is between like so many different things. Disability is like an umbrella, right? There are so many things underneath that umbrella that you won't even think of. So for the Disability Pride flag, which this is what the flag looks like, there are multiple different colors and it's changed over the years. So the black background basically is like a mourning for people who have like been a victim of like ableist language and ableist abuse and stuff like that. The diagonal, I had to look this up because I actually didn't know the diagonal part of it. The diagonal is cutting across the walls and barriers that separate disabled people from society. And so I've had a chronic illness and disability since I was young, 12 years old. I'm almost 30 now. So I've been dealing with it for most of my life. And I will say I've had good and bad experiences between friends, between strangers, all of this stuff like that, where, you know, ableist language has been used a lot, and or just like, you know, stigma that comes. Like, you see me like this, you don't think I look like I have a disability, but a lot of disabilities and chronic illnesses are invisible, or you just can't see them until like I get up and walk, right? So I look quote unquote normal, but I'm not, right? Like, I live a different life, which is where a Novel Life comes from, my channel name. I live a different life. It just so happens to be I talk about books as well. So if you want to know what the colors mean, where all of the recs that I'm going to talk about come from, because it's all encompassing of a lot of different things. Red is for physical disabilities. I have a physical disability. My knee, you know, doesn't bend a normal way. My elbows don't bend a normal way. So I have a physical disability, and that includes like, you know, if you need to use a mobility aid, or if you need more time walking, like, you know, anything like that. It's all encompassing. Gold is for neurodivergent, like ADHD, autism, and stuff like that. So the white stripe is invisible and undiagnosed disabilities. And I will say there's a lot of people out there that are either going through a diagnosis that don't necessarily label themselves as someone who has a chronic illness or disability, or they haven't gotten that diagnosis yet. And if you're out there and you're struggling with that, it's okay, it will come. But I will say that you're not crazy. A lot of people think that before they get diagnosed, like, oh, they're crazy, they're just making it up, it's not really that bad, their pain's not that bad, oh, you know, this blood work, this one type of blood test doesn't show anything, but it could, you know, take a while for you to get the diagnosis, but it will come. And when you get that diagnosis, you will feel amazing and feel validated, and all that stuff. Anyway, wanted to throw that out there. And then the blue stripe is for psychiatric disabilities, and then the green stripe is for sensory disabilities. So, like I said, Disability Pride Month and the Disability Pride Month flag encompasses a lot of different things. So that was your little 3-minute rundown of what Disability Pride is. I will say, do not come in the comments and say mean things. Your comment will be deleted, okay? This is Disability Pride Month. I do not want to hear any negativity. Now, I'm so excited to celebrate and give you some book recommendations where a chronic illness is present and or a disability is present, and I'm going to tell you all about that because I have a wide range of them. Now, let's go ahead and jump right in. First one is one I recently read, and that is Cross the Line by Simone Saltani. So this book actually comes out on the 16th of July in the US. If you're in the UK, it's already out. I have been like so excited to read this book since she was going to indie publish this last year, but then it got picked up by Berkeley, and so I had to wait to read it. But in this book, our female character has hypermobility, so she has problems with her joints popping in and out of place, and she has to, you know, prepare and do all that. And I thought the representation was really good. As someone who deals with joint pain, it's not the same, but joint problems, I actually could relate to like being prepared. And when you travel, you have to make sure you wear the right shoes, and you have to make sure you're not overdoing it and all that stuff like that. Now, this is a brother's best friend Formula One romance. Our hero is a Formula One driver, which I love. There was so much Formula One in this book. I loved it so freaking much. If you love Lauren Asher's Dirty Air series, you need to read this book. I love this so much. But But he's a Formula One driver and she is a social media like manager. She just graduated college and she wants to get into like social media marketing or anything like that. And so he's like, can you do me a favor and travel with me for the next like 3 months? I need to fix my image. So she does. And they had like a moment 2 years ago that they had like a little kiss, and they've said, you know what, we're not doing this. She's like, my brother's literally gonna kill you, we can't do this. And he's like, you know what, you're right. But now they're not fighting anymore. They're forced together, they're traveling the world together. He's doing great with his career, she's helping him out in his social media presence, and that gets a little bit messy with her brother. So I really love this one. Love the hypermobility representation here. This would be considered a invisible disability, but also physical disability because it can show up physically. So definitely check out that one. The next one I have is The Beautiful Hearts Duet by Emma Scott. I really enjoyed this. This is technically a bind up of 2 books. It's the special edition. I don't have the original covers, but I really enjoyed this book. Our hero, it's kind of not a love triangle, kind of. Our female character meets both of them at the same time. She starts dating one guy, which is our hero's best friend, and you see that when they both go off into the military, they're writing letters back and forth to each other, but it's actually our hero writing those letters, not the guy that she's dating. And so she basically falls in love with our hero, but when they come back, you know, he hasn't really told her anything like that, and they're both struggling with different things. So the heroes in this, so both of the guys in this book, one is struggling a lot with PTSD, which is considered like an invisible illness, but yeah, it's just like something more mental. And he comes back where he is permanently in a wheelchair. He had an injury in the military, I think, like I read this kind of long ago, but he, I think, had like an IUD exploded, and it severed part of his legs or something like that. So he has like an injury that made him in a wheelchair, that made him a wheelchair user. So I would say this is a really beautiful book. They both struggle. I mean, you see how she struggles with trying to like connect with someone who has PTSD, because she's trying to like still rekindle that romance and that relationship even while they were away. But he struggles with that because, you know, it's a different world when you come back from war. And same thing with our hero who has a physical disability, that he's struggling with like not being whole, which a lot of people with physical disability do struggle with. So I really like this one. This one's really good. The next book I have is The Darkest Corner of the Heart by Lucina Connie. So this one is someone who has a disability for a short amount of time, and that's still considered a disability, like short-term, long-term, like anything like that. You could have a disability at any point in your life. And this one I really liked because our female character, she is a ballerina and she suffers this injury right before like the biggest audition of her career, and she can't do it, and she basically has to go into a very intense physical therapy for like 6 weeks to 10 weeks, but her recovery is almost a year, so she can't like fully go back into dancing. And she thought like dancing was her whole life, and I really connected with that because when I was younger I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I was in dance since I was 2, and so when I turned 12 and I got this diagnosis, I physically could not dance anymore, and that was really devastating because I really wanted to do that with my life. And I had it at a point where like I didn't really make any life plans, but it was still like I connected with that, right? And she has a romance with her physical therapist after her treatment. It's like they have this like friend connection while she's healing because she's really going through it. And you know, he understands that it's more mental too when you have an athlete or anyone that struggles with not physically being able to do something again. So I want to throw this out there because it's not like a huge, like a big chronic illness or disability wreck in there, but it's such a short amount of time that she really does struggle mentally with that. And I think a lot of people who have a chronic illness and or a disability would relate to that. So I wanted to throw this one out there. I really love this book. It is so good. Lucina Coney is such an underrated author. I want more people to read this book. This is the second book in the series, but you can read them out of order, but I really love this one. The next one I want to talk about is His Tesoro by Emilia Rossi. So this is a mafia romance where our female character is actually in a wheelchair. She has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I'm pretty sure that's what she has in this, but she has over time kind of like her joints haven't been the best. She also hasn't gotten a lot of medical care when she lived with her father. Basically, this book starts with an arranged marriage between our hero, who is in one city and head of a mafia, and then her dad, who's head of another city's mafia, and they kind of like, you know, get married to like break the tension and have no war. Basically, he does not know she's in a wheelchair, so the first time he sees her is when she's coming down the aisle and she's in her wheelchair. And when she moves in with him, he realizes, oh, she sometimes uses a wheelchair, oh, she sometimes uses a walker. Like, he's trying to come to terms with it as well, and she's struggling with that because she's never had medical care from her father. Her father has always told her like she's useless, there's no use for her because she has a disability, which is so ableist, and I felt so bad for her. But like, that happens, like that really does happen to people out there, and I felt horrible. But the way that our hero like really takes care of our female character at the end, like in the end, like, he just like really makes sure that she has good medical care, and she starts to see specialists, and they start a treatment plan and all this stuff like that. And not necessarily a treatment plan, because with some chronic illnesses there's no treatment, it's only management, but she has a plan in place to like make sure that she's having like the best care and she's doing all the right things for her body, and that she kind of like understands her disability and her chronic illness more. And I really, really love this one. I thought the representation was so good. I read this book because of the artwork that the author has on her Instagram, so definitely go check that out. I loved it. Another one I want to talk about is for fans of Elsie Silver. So if you've read all of Elsie Silver books, you need to read Downpour by Maggie Gates. I loved this book. This is a small town, like grumpy sunshine, a little bit of an age gap, and our hero, you see, 8 seconds completely changed his life. He was, I think, a bull rider, and he got bucked off the bull. I think that's the right term. I don't know. He got bucked off and he landed on the ground wrong, and basically from his neck down was paralyzed. And you see at the beginning of the book, once that happens, there's like months that go by, and you like check in with him, and you see that he turns from a quadriplegic to a paraplegic. So he starts to have some, you know, mobility back into his arms and stuff like that. But he is in a wheelchair for most of this book, so he struggles with getting around. He lives on this tiny little house on his family's ranch, and he just really struggles because he was a bull rider. Like, he was famous, and a lot of people knew him. He was huge. This was going to be like one of his last, you know, rodeos, figuratively and literally, but it was going to be his last one. He was going to retire or do something else. And our female character is actually a caretaker, kind of. So she comes in and just to spend time with people who can't leave the house or have a hard time. If they need to be driven anywhere, she does that, or if they need help cleaning up their house, stuff like that. And he's just like, I know you're supposed to be here, like, I know you're getting paid to be here, but like, by my family, but just like sit in the corner and leave me alone. I mean, he's so grumpy. He's like, I just want to be left alone. But she's so sunshiny that she slowly like brings him coffee and like does little things like that. And I thought it was really, really sweet, and I loved the romance. I love the representation. I love that you could see he struggled with being in a wheelchair and coming to terms with that. You know, he's just certain things you see that he's, you know, gains some mobility back, but it's never like 100% back, and he just has to, you know, grieve his other life and like go into this life and, you know, accept that. And it's hard and it takes a while. You can't push someone to do that. So I really loved that one by Maggie Gates. That representation was also really good. The next one I want to talk about is Redeemed by Lauren Asher. I love this book. This is the 4th book in the Dirty Air series, and in this book our hero actually has a Formula 1 accident, and he has part of his leg amputated, so he's an amputee. And this is kind of like fake dating. Our female character goes to find what she thinks is her father and finds our hero instead living in that house, and he's just like, what the heck are you doing here? And they have like the sweetest romance. I want to reread this book because I haven't read it in like 2 or 3 years, but I really loved this when I read it. Another book by Lauren Asher is Wrecked by Lauren Asher, so these two are in the Dirty Air series. This one deals with anxiety, and this one he's an amputee. I loved both of these books. They're both Formula 1 heavy. This one, he is a social media manager, or his like PR representative is the one he falls in love with, and this one is just like this female character that stumbles into his life, and they just like start dating. She's trying to find her father. He lives where she thought her father was. So yeah, it's super cute. I loved both of these. Lauren Asher does have other books with some disability and neurodivergence and stuff like that, and like learning disabilities, but I love those two, so I wanted to mention them. And of course, the queen that has paved the way for romance books with disabilities is Chloe Lee. So her new release that's trad published is Only and Forever. It's the last book in the Bergman Brothers series. The whole Bergman Brothers series is absolutely amazing for any type of representation. I've done multiple disability and chronic illness representation videos all across my channel since I started, and I've always talked about Chloe Lee's. And in this book, both of our characters are neurodivergent, so they both deal with different kind of disabilities in that way, and I loved it. He is so swoon-worthy. He's so romantic. I love him so much. And our female character is a thriller writer, and he wants to open up a bookstore. So it's like super cute, super cozy, like perfect for the book people out there that love to just read about books and just read books about like book things, like being in a bookstore and stuff like that. It's super cute. Highly recommend this one too. And the last one I wanted to mention is a popular one, and that is Fourth Wing. A lot of people, I've heard some people say, oh, who would want Violet? She is just, she's always in pain. She's always talking about how she's hurting herself and popping a joint out. Like, why would Xaden want to be with her? Yes, I've heard that before. In this book, Violet has what I would consider Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I think that's what Rebecca Yarros has said. But in this book, you see right away from the beginning, anyone with a disability or chronic illness can pick up on it, but she has to like wrap her joints pop out. Like, you know, she has a lot going like against her when she's going into the quadrant, the writer's quadrant in this book. That's the one that her mother tells her to go into. And you know, it's just like everyone thinks that she's gonna die. She's not gonna make it. There's no way she's gonna make it, and she does. She has to fight harder. Like most people with disabilities and chronic illnesses, we have to fight harder for a lot of things we have to do, and it takes a lot more energy, but she can do it. She can do it in her own way, and she did it in her own way, and I love that. I love how badass she is. And while Iron Flame wasn't my favorite because of the plot, I still love her as a female character. Like, I love her so much. I love the representation in this book, and I love how widely popular it got and how a lot of people actually really do love this book. But I feel like a lot of people don't realize that she has this chronic illness. People just think she has weak joints. Well, it's like, yeah, but there's a reason why she has those weak joints. So I loved this one. I love that this is such a mainstream hyped book that's very popular and has this chronic illness in it, and she has that little bit of a disability representation in there. But I think it's really important to read very diversely in every single way. So I hope you pick up a couple of these books and try them out, especially in July for Disability Pride. But if not, you can add them to your TBR, explore these authors. There are a ton of other recommendations. Make sure you check out Ava and Victoria's videos. I'll have their channel linked in the description box below. For the emoji, drop me all of these colors in the comments down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.